following program is a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market updates and trading strategies. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block. With your host, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com and co-hosts Mike Tusaw from KnowYourOptionsInc.com and Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by Options Express. Don't spend time worrying about your broker. At Options Express, security, stability, and account protection are the most important responsibilities to our customers. Secure account access, enhanced financial protection, entrusted with over $7 billion in customer assets, established financial stability. Options Express lets you trade with confidence. Stocks, options, and futures, all in one account. Trade with a specialist. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio to open your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
Welcome back to the Option Block, and I hope all of our listeners out there had a fun and a profitable start to the old trading week. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as the Options Insider Radio Network. And I am back from sunny Florida, tanned, rested, and ready to do some option blocking. I am joined by a motley crew of contributors, starting off with good old Mr. One Pinky, a.k.a. Monday Mike, Mike Cavanaugh from Know Your Options, Inc. Auntie/Monday Mike, welcome to the show, sir.
Always a pleasure to be here.
How could it be anything less than a pleasure to be option blocking? We've created our own new verb, actually.
Yes, blocking options.
I hear you guys had some fun last week in my absence. No OX, no everyone. It was bedlam. But now I'm back.
You're back.
And the host seat is
we can go on
filled.
with our lives,
Yes.
and our option block listeners can rest easy that
Yes.
the show is back to its normal operational standard.
Dry your tears, listeners. The host seat is filled yet again. And I am also joined in the Options Express hot seat by our occasional contributor and longtime friend of the show, Mr. John Grigas. Mr. Grigas, welcome back to the show, sir.
Yeah, good to be here. I actually have another broker in the room with me, and if either of us were technically sound, we'd be able to figure out how that we could both listen to this out of a laptop while speaking to you guys and not screwing up the sound. But we are not that intelligent, so we are just going to do it the regular way with the headset on. But no, I'm glad to be back. Schwab continually does take up a lot of time of our broker, so I apologize for no one being here on Thursday. We're thinking, getting another broker into the mix may help that down the line.
I thought you were rotating in Mr. Alex to take some of that slack.
James Ruzon or Jim, I need like a week notice. I need to do it in the makeup chair. I need time for research.
They need to study the scripts first before we start recording.
Yeah, you stare at the screen all day. There's your research.
And last but not least, we have in the Mark Sebastian seat this week, good old Andrew Giovanazzi. Can I say now of formerly of Acumen and now of Option Pit? Is that allowed?
Correct. You are allowed to say that.
All right, we've been teasing at that for some time, and Andrew has indeed joined Mark over deep in the bowels of the Option Pit. So it is no longer just Mark alone in his office playing with his slinky. There is indeed some adult supervision over in the Option Pit. So if you're thinking about heading that way and diving deep into the recesses of the pit, now would be a good time. Andrew, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. If you can call two old floor traders adult supervision, I guess we mildly pass for that, but there's a lot of options going on in the option pit, and things have been going well already for the first week, and just very excited to keep it moving.
Well, it's chronological age, if not maturity. We don't need both.
I'm definitely older. Definitely older.
All right, and with our team assembled, we're going to dive right into the trading block.
The trading block.
And welcome to the trading block. This is, of course, the portion of the show where we run down what's been trading, what's been lighting up the tape, what's been moving the market and causing all of the hubbub today on the street. And it was a relatively mild day with a relative lack of hubbub. We were down, actually there was a decent swing today. We were down at one point, I believe, about 10 or 12 handles in the S&P, and then we closed the day with the S&P up nearly 8 handles to 1261, the NASDAQ up about 9 to 2695, the Dow up 85 to 1268, and the good old VIX cash closing mildly down on the day, down 0.3 of a point to 29.85 after having been up several handles at one point during the day. So it was a bit of a swing today, and of course, as with a lot of what's been going on lately, I'm sure you guys had a lot of fun last week on the show just poking fun at all those silly fellows over in Greece and how they keep opening their mouths and inserting feet and just sending the market into a tizzy. And today, oh, go ahead.
No. Yeah, we did. We did have fun making fun of all the Greeks putting the shoes in their mouths.
You know, I have a friend who's Greek when I was growing up, and he used to tell me that a Greek man by himself can build a mountain, and two Greeks together can tear it down. It's kind of an old Greek saying, I guess, that Greeks just don't work well together, and they tend to be a lot of infighting and a lot of sniping and bickering. That was his favorite saying, and I guess we're starting to see some examples of that playing around today. But yeah, it was a relatively interesting day. We saw a bit of a turnaround. What particularly caught your eye today in this festival of mild activity?
You know, I thought the festival of mild activity, the biggest surprise really is how much the volatility isn't moving but isn't going down. So I think that's my recurring theme. Last week I thought it was a little, we had the big pullback, basically when vol shot up from the kind of that Greek-inspired rally that we had. I haven't been ready really to do a whole lot at this level because I feel like I'm waiting for something to kind of the shoe to drop again. I've noticed like volatility levels, VIX, VXX, both those things, starting to kind of drift back up again. There's really not it's kind of in this sort of weird fugue state, and I haven't been able to wrap my head totally around it at this point.
You know,
it just doesn't. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we made the same comments or similar comments this morning when we were recording the Vol Views show, just about what a strange place VIX and volatility is in general right now. When you look at it in purely mathematical, empirical terms, you see how much the S&P has to move given the current levels of volatility. You look at it in context of where the S&P is now at these current levels of VIX versus where the VIX was last time we were trading around 1261. You definitely get the impression there's a heavy amount of vol in the air, and it's probably unsustainable in the long term. But in the short term, I mean, given all the sentiment we're seeing right now and my own sentiment that I think these levels are relatively unsustainable. I'm not a big fan of what's going on over in the Eurozone. And just in the short term, I would not be a big seller of VIX right here because there's just too much downside, too much uncertainty, too much fear and loathing, if you will, lurking in the recesses of this market. I'm with the futures, I think, on this one. I think long term, I'm definitely looking at the VIX falling off these heights. But for the near term, this thing could gap up to 40. It could vacillate down to 25 and back up again. It could do a lot of different things, and it wouldn't surprise me at all here in the near term.
Yeah, I agree with you. We were actually poking around at the pit report this morning with Mark. I'm just looking for cheap volatility to buy, and we were going through some call spreads in the VIX and stuff like that. Just I'm not ready to pull the trigger on anything, but kind of putting a little list together of stuff I want to buy, and that's just some list. That's what we were looking at. long story short.
And Mr. G, what was capturing your attention, or perhaps the attention of your customers today over on the OX trading desk?
Well, I didn't get a chance to make fun of the Greeks last week, so I feel a little left out.
There you go. By all means, dive in. You can make all the feta euro jokes you want to make.
No, well, I heard today. I mean, we're looking for a sign. We were down 75-80% of the day, and then we had that nice little rally at the end of the day. And I heard news out was that the Greeks decided, they agreed to a 4-day work week, and that's kind of what moved us higher. Boom. It's good stuff right there. My jokes aren't that good, but if anybody caught Saturday Night Live on Saturday, they did a great, like, one of the, Saturday Night Live is not a good show, but once in a while they'll put out a good skit. And Saturday they did one on the Greek financial situation as it appeared in the context of the Greek gods. So Zeus was running the country, and all his other gods were, where's the god of finance? I could not find him, but it was pretty good. So if you need to watch something,
I missed that one.
It's great. It was like I was, I TiVo everything, so I had to watch it a few times.
That's what YouTube is for, to get those little gems of that for the once a year when SNL is actually funny. You can get those gems and pluck them out of the rest of the waste that is SNL.
Yeah, no, it was a good one. But I mean, as far as trading, people were looking at the Priceline earnings today after the close. I believe they're coming out. Let me take a look. Is that today? I know I was.
Yeah, it looks like they're moving in the after hours. They closed at 509 even. They're trading about 505 right now in the after hours. So slightly bearish here in Priceline. Priceline trading over the 500 handle. Haven't been watching.
509 it closed at, down 430. At the money straddle was trading for about $50. Talk about expecting a big move in that stock. I love talking about the stock, in the office and with customers, because I literally never met anyone that's used it. But I remember when Shatner wanted to give up his stock and wanted some cash payment because the stock was trading for $2-3, and now it's a $500 stock. So it amazed me that, something that nobody seems to ever use, or maybe it's that they don't want to admit that they use it too. Maybe that's the case.
I use it on occasion. I mean, it's not my go-to thing. I actually use, I think, Hotwire and a few others a lot more now. But yeah, I'm looking here. You mentioned here. I'm looking here at the weekly Nove straddle. The 510 straddle went out at nearly $50. You're right. This thing, if these levels hold, and it seems like they are, that was a sale and a half. My God, the thing's only moved 4 handles in the after hour. So unless there's another shoe to drop here, and that could certainly be the case. These guys are pricing in a sizable move here on these earnings that we're just not seeing.
10% move.
I know, I know. This might look like it might turn out to be a Microsoft style of meh earnings. if it looks
kind of muted right now. I mean,
it's already turned to the upside. As it was not to the upside yet, but it's already turned from the downside. It was trading 505. Now it's 506 at roughly 507. And so yeah, it looks like that'd be fantastic if it opened unched on the day and that $50 straddle. That's fantastic. Good. So good on you, all you premium buyers there in Priceline this week.
Yeah, that's too pricey. But other than that, I mean, obviously the MF Global, R.J. O'Brien, futures industry kind of taking a black eye last week with the, who can find the $700 million account.
I know. Oh, go ahead.
What's that?
I was going to say, it's been crazy. I was even on vacation, and my phone was ringing off the hook with questions about what's going on with Man and what's going on with all these ones. So I can imagine how crazy it was for you guys last week, just putting out the fires with your own customers.
Exactly, and then Schwab does their futures business through MFG, so we're kind of caught in the web of this thing too, trying to service our clients and get them out of there, and then there's no where's the money, where's positions, and so I'll go over some of the things that we went through with our customers today. But sometimes by the time I type up these talking points and get them out to the group, things have already changed. I mean, it's just changing hour by hour over here.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
I still blame it on Wall Street.
Let's just, I think someone should move to take over or indeed occupy Wall Street. I think that is the solution to a lot of these problems.
There you go.
If only someone would kind of get that ball rolling. There's some nice branding to be had there. I think you can make T-shirts and stuff. It'd be a good mix there. But yeah, a lot going on. And Auntie Mike, you missed our little discussion here about the Greece and everything else. But what caught your eye in today's relatively meh activity on the street overall?
Yeah, it was pretty meh. I mean, I heard you guys talking about Priceline. We were eyeing up Priceline. I swore I saw Priceline right before they announced and right after the bell drop down to like 480, 475. I wiped my eyes, and then it was trading back above 500. So I don't know if
I'm looking here. It says here the low, at least during the day, and maybe after hours it didn't. But
503.
503 during the day. I don't see how low it got in the after hours here. But if what you said makes sense.
I was watching the after hours, and like right before it, it might not have traded there, but the bid offers were down in the 480s. But it looks like it's back stabilizing around 503. So
yeah, that straddle went out $50. So
not too shabby.
Hope you weren't loading up on some Priceline premium going into earnings, sir.
I was not.
That's the KYO strategy, isn't it? Buy straddles for every earnings announcement.
Why not? Yeah, especially if it's weeklies.
That's where the retiree money should be right there.
Yeah, I can't get enough vol. Just get long vol.
So aside from Priceline, what else were you talking about? Of course, since we mentioned Priceline, we're in the tech land, maybe the land of tech nonsense pricing. I was gone last week. I didn't have a chance to. And of course, it happened on Friday, so it was after our final taping. But of course, our old Chicago friends here, Groupon, went public last Friday. Did anyone have a chance to watch that fun frenzy go on Friday? John, do you have a lot of people calling in for that one?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Yeah, we did have a lot of people. I want to get in the IPO, for the IPOs in the tech industry, and I think OpenTable and I don't know the other three that have gone off this year, LinkedIn, Pandora. Everybody, same questions. I want to, I got $500 in my account. Let me get in the price because I know it's going to jump up on day one. Well, guess what? You can't buy IPOs here. One of the things you can, though, with Charles Schwab is that they do get allocations. I guess if they're underwritten by J.P. Morgan Chase, so that is one thing I guess down the line we'll be offering. But I kind of like Groupon. I'm glad to see that they figured out their accounting. They're just overstating it by
that they were
double.
2x their revenue. Oops, sorry about that. And the fact
I say 1.2 billion. I meant 600 million.
Exactly.
I didn't know you can't count the money you actually have to give back to the vendor or to the business. But I think long term they're gonna do fine. I mean they are they are the leader in this, what do you call it, online social couponing. But I think what was more important is I wish I knew where the party was at downtown, so I could have been out there because they made a lot of millionaires last week.
Yeah, that Ponzi scheme just keeps feeding those initial investors. Every time, we might joke about valuations and scoff at these levels and everything else like that, but all these guys need is yet another sucker to pay a higher price than they did, and they're happy campers. And they indeed found quite a few suckers in this one. I think the relevant question for our audience then, John, perhaps you will know the answer to this, as I do not, is when are the options going live here in Groupon?
We don't have that info out yet, which usually...
I have an inkling.
What do you got?
On the SIBO blog by Marty Kearney, I looked. He's a good place for information. It's eligible no 14th. That doesn't mean it's going to be listed, but it's eligible. So, right around that. So I'm sure it's going to be listed as soon as they could. That would be my guess.
that would I would imagine it would be not too long after that date then, if that's when it's eligible.
Yep. Yeah, with LinkedIn, I think we saw it 8 days after the IPO. So
yeah. They're going to get on that bandwagon for sure.
Time to load up then on upside here in Groupon. Is that what you're saying here, Mr. Grigas?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't know. I liked, on the one hand, I see that they were the progenitors of this space, whatever this space has turned out to be. But they do have some deep pockets playing in their pond now. They have Google, who tried to buy them, and then and they rebuked their offer. And now Google is playing in that pond. They have some pretty deep pockets. Amazon acquired Living Social, I believe, so they're playing in that pond as well. So there's a lot of deep pockets arrayed against them in that space. I don't know how...
Yeah, but Facebook went into it, and then they test marketed it, and then they got out of it because they couldn't find a way to make money or just realized that there was too much people in the party already.
That could be. That's not their core competency. This is, at the end of the day, these things are sales institutions. You have to have a large sales team. You have to go knock on door to door and sign up local merchants. I don't think that's Facebook's core competency. It might not be Google's either. I don't know, but they have the money to throw at it and to definitely stymie Groupon at any given point. And so it is interesting to watch. I'm not sure if I'd be too much of a bull. I know, Auntie Mike, you were ready to dive in whole hog on LinkedIn. So are you as bullish on Groupon here as well?
I'm really not. It seems like it wants to play the growth stock mold, and just after seeing what happened to Netflix, You know what happens to growth stocks when they reach their first sign of not having the potential to grow anymore? Groupon grew extremely fast before they IPO'd. I mean, really fast. They've got thousands of employees, both domestic and international. Unless they find a colony on the moon and start Groupon on the moon, I don't know how much growth they can physically sustain past what they've already grew. They grew extremely fast. They made a lot of noise early, and I think they're already coming down. You IPO, like John said, there had to be a nice little party down here somewhere in Chicago Friday night. I just don't see this as being a stock that goes to 100, 200. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I will snap my fingers and say, oh shucks, but it's not a stock I'm gonna buy anything. Maybe puts if it does hit 200, but that's about it.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where we're in the unusual position of not having any options to parse, so we're stuck talking about the underlying. But yeah, I definitely would be on the bearish side of that tip when indeed the options do list on this one. I agree. They used to, I think they even put out a press release that at one point we were the fastest growing company in history, or whatever nonsense metric they used to analyze that. That was one of their comments, I think, recently. So yeah, they definitely did grow fast. It's interesting to see if they could keep up that growth. I would wager, given the deep pockets that are lining up against them, probably not, or at the very least, the cost of acquiring those new customers is going to be substantially higher than it was to get those first initial ones in the door.
I think it's going to be one of those. Yes, they were the fastest company to grow from 0 to $1 billion ever, and I think they're going to be the quickest company to go from $1 billion to 0 as well. That's just me.
I don't know.
That's just me.
Netflix may race them to the bottom at this point, given what's been going on out there in the Widowmaker.
One thing what Groupon's doing is they are channeling the late 90s by only putting out a small amount of the outstanding shares for the float now. What is like 6 or 7% or something like that. So that at least that keeps the froth. Hopefully, when we have time to talk about options, there should be some froth on the options with the with the small float.
That's true. And that surprises me, given these guys how quick they've been to try to capitalize on their investments. I'm surprised they didn't just dump as much of the float as possible.
They should have sold like 80%.
They should have. If I were those guys, I would have taken my chips off the table in a hurry. Oh, you want 98% of the company? Go crazy. Here you go. I'm off to the next deal, or perhaps my island in Barbados.
Yeah, I hear that for sure.
All right. Moving on from the IPO land, before we close out the old trading block, Auntie Mike, do you want to hit any interesting action in the metals or anything else that you want to hit on today? Or commodities?
No, we're always in the metals. We're always watching the metals. We've been in Apple here on Know Your Options Ask. We've just had the stock and a married put on for over 2 weeks. We're gonna sell a call if the market goes up to 410 or down to 390. But Apple's been range bound for the last 3 weeks, unlike I've seen it in the past 3 years. So
in Apple with no covered call component, no collar. Who are you, sir? And what have you done with Auntie Mike?
Married to a put right now. No call either way.
You're just too crazy over there for words, sir.
It's been interesting. It's been interesting to see Apple that in a tight range like that. I can't remember the last time it's been in a range for this long.
Well, it's truly at this point now, they're really at this inflection point where, the bulls and the bears are at each other as to what the long-term outlook is here for Apple. Their founder, their iconic founder, is gone. What the outlook is for them, you can probably justify them at these levels given certain metrics, PE and whatnot. But future levels, if they can maintain this or not, and it looks like that uncertainty has definitely spread into the marketplace where they're keeping it pegged here because they don't know what to do with it going forward, at least right now. And Mr. Grigas, any commodities or anything else you want to hit on before we roll on into the odd block?
No, there was a interesting story that touches on the commodity point, but I was going to save this for later. But I don't know if you guys saw a news release that came out today, and the headline says, R.J. O'Brien asked the USDA to delay the monthly report. So that has to do with the movement from the MFG accounts. But have you ever heard of a broker-dealer or a trading company or FCM saying, hey, you want to hold up on that unemployment report real quick?
That's fantastic.
Why straighten out my business? I saw it on a tweet, so I go.
I think the last firm to do that was Duke and Duke at Trading Places. I think that was the last firm that actually tried to hold off a report.
Turn those machines back on. Yeah, that's
the Dukes.
That's a confidence builder right there, if ever I heard one.
Yeah, they don't want the volatility. So no, I mean we were just kind of laughing about that. It's kind of humorous.
So do you think if you put in a request there, Mr. Grigas, on behalf of OX to the USDA, say, hey, why don't you hold off on this report for a day or two? Do you think they would honor that for you? You have that kind of clout over there?
No, I used to. I don't know what happened, but everything went off the floor, and I guess I don't have any pull anymore. But I mean, no, I don't expect them to. This is like a cover your ass email, Hey, we asked the government not to screw our customers over, but they went ahead and released it anyway. And now, and I'll go into it in more details. But the way they moved those accounts over to RG O'Brien, people don't have any money over there to back the positions up. So I can understand the request.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if that gets a response. Oh, sure, why not? Well, what do you want, next week? No problem, we'll do that for you. All right, that is going to do it for the trading block, and now we're going to roll right into the odd block.
The odd block.
All right, and welcome to the Odd Block. This is, of course, the portion of the show where we discuss the interesting and or the unusual options activity that is lighting up the tape today. We're going to kick things off with something perhaps in Monday Mike's wheelhouse here. McMoran Exploration Company, ticker symbol MMR. I know you guys like playing in the energy sector, so perhaps this one has come across your screens in the past. They are ticker symbol MMR. They closed at $13.86 today, up about 45 cents or about 3.5%. It's the name that does about 8,000 contracts a day. That did about 26,000 today, so a sizable day for MMR. And this is a company that they're an oil and gas producer. They're big in the Gulf of Mexico, and we saw some sizable bullish activity coming into play in MMR today. But one of the larger trades we saw was about 2,000 of the Jan 15 calls going up, and it looks like they legged into some verticals here. They sold 2,000 against that, 2,000 of the Jan 17 halves and the Jan 19, so 2,000 each of those. That netted out to about 8-cent debit on that, so a nice little bullish vertical here. We also saw some shorter terms call spreads going up as well. The D1016 call spread went up about 1,500 times for about $3.55. And then we didn't see any substantial news to drive this, but so far a lot of bulls coming in with some interesting verticals, picking some interesting spots in MMR. If you've been following MMR for a while, this thing has had a bit of a rough run over the past year. It got down to as low as looks like about 8.5 or so, and earlier, actually 8.25, down back, actually not that long ago, about a month ago. And they've since pulled things together, had quite a run over the past month where they're closing today, like I said, up about 1386, so quite a run to the upside. And these guys obviously thinking that this run to the upside still has some legs left in it. I would think they maybe would have put these spreads on a little bit earlier to capitalize on this, but nonetheless thinking that there is some room to the upside here in both Jan and Dees here on these spreads. Any of you guys play in and or watch MMR on a regular basis?
I do not.
That makes two of us. Yeah, I do not watch this stock.
We do get a lot of people that do that. I know that Andrew said it might have been a Christmas tree, but we do get a lot of people at the retail that will. The strikes are deeper in the money than I'm usually used to seeing, except for a few group of traders that we have here that like to buy almost in the money call spreads, or deeper in the money call spreads, and pay a little bit more for that extra certainty that it may finish in the money. They may in here get their $6 maximize their full profit and see their $6 gain here. But I mean, those are unusual strikes. Usually be a 10-15 or a little bit further out of the money. It's strange they picked up the 10-16s here.
Yeah, that's a bit of a wide spread there, and like you said, the tree is also an interesting one on the 15, 17 half, 19. Like, this is not a name I watch either, but I know it's interesting, particularly given what we've seen, the activity we've seen over the past month in this name. You think you might see some spreads on the other end of that tip, maybe thinking that this has used up its juice for the time being, but apparently not. These guys thinking there's a little bit more run left in MMR. Not sizable, probably up into the 16 to 17 range, but still a little bit more run left in MMR. Andrew, anything you want to add to that before I jump on to the next one?
No, I thought that was actually these of some of the bigger trades we've seen. These they don't look too bad. They're trying to pick up a lot of some decent upside with almost there's margin outlay obviously, but there's not a lot of capital risk outlay. It just seems like a nice levered way to play an upside run in MMR.
Yeah, a little bit savvier than perhaps some of the ones we've seen recently where we saw people just loading up on far out of the money calls or what have you, and some of these other trades that are probably a little less savvy. These guys obviously at least have
give us 7 out of 10 on the savvy scale.
There we go. The Giovinazzi savvy scale.
Yes.
All right, and moving on, not staying in, but leaping over to the financial realm, we're actually going to hit on a little bit of activity we saw last week while I was gone here in night, of course, ticker symbol KCG, and this is some activity we saw back on Friday that I think was worth looking at. Obviously, a lot of turmoil in the financial services last week, and night was no exception to that. They saw a lot of bears coming in starting on Thursday, actually, in the Jan and April 10 puts. People were lifting offers on those strikes across the board. Of course, night closed today at $12, roughly even, pretty much unchanged on the day. So we saw a lot of opening bears coming in on Thursday in the Jan and April 10 puts. Friday, we saw even more activity, people lifting offers on these Dece and Jan 7.5 puts. So these are pretty much a third out of the money puts at this point, and they were trading around 15 cents and 32 cents respectively on those two. So some really relatively strongly bearish sentiment here on night, perhaps thinking that the turmoil we saw at Man is not going to be limited to Man for much longer. There's going to be a lot of upheaval here in the financial space. Any of you guys watching Man, or I'm not Man, any of you guys watching Night at all here? What's been going on there? Any of your OX customers trading, perhaps lifting offers on some of these puts there, John?
No, I mean, I could definitely, feel the sentiment. I mean, a lot of our calls, a lot of our emails have been about the security of, ourselves, Options Express, Schwab, kind of go over and, the segregation of funds. So, from a retail standpoint, I could see a lot of put buyers out there just from the, the feeling we're getting from the whole retail crowd.
Yeah, this one hit a high of about $14 not too long ago. So these guys picking up the 7.5 strike in Dece. This was like late October, actually. It hit a high of about $14. So these guys lighting up the 7.5 strike. I think this thing is going to drop roughly 50% by December. That's a pretty bearish outlook here for night. And it looks like a lot of bears piling into night, the complete opposite of what we saw going on in MMR. And we're going to close it out today with Career Education Corp, ticker symbol Cisco, CECO. They closed today at $8.34, up about nearly 5% on the day. And this is the name that does about 1,000 contracts a day. They did nearly 7,000 today. And the bulk of that activity, well, first off, this is a for-profit education services provider. And so the bulk of that activity was put sellers coming into this name. We saw people selling about 4,400 of the Nov 7s on a pretty paltry open interest of just 1,500 contracts. So that's primarily opening paper here. And the bulk of them were sold for about a dime a piece. So I'm just pulling up this strike now. Yeah, it looks like the bulk of them went up for about a dime. We also saw on Friday people hitting that same strike with about 1,100 more of these puts going up for about a quarter or so on Friday. So essentially a lot of put sellers coming into Cisco on numbers that are relatively sizable for this relatively small name. A lot of people thinking obviously that there's not too much downside below the 7 strike, and if there is, they don't mind picking it up in that 675 to 690 range or so. So a little small one, interesting one to watch. These aren't exactly sizable or I guess size money trades. They're sizable, but not exactly expensive options. And it just printed 7.
Not today, Mark. I'm sorry. 2 days ago.
Oh,
and that's,
okay.
That's pretty recent for selling a $7 put.
Oh, you're right. Actually, you're right. Yeah, it did. It got down. I'm looking at the chart here. No, I didn't have the chart up. I thought I missed something in the after hours. I was like, wow, it just gapped down.
That guy gets a 4 on the savvy scale unless he really knows the stock's not going down there.
Yeah, you're right. This name has printed here recently. It just a couple days ago. It was trading. This thing's been all over the board. It was trading nearly 18 a couple of weeks ago, and then it got down to the low 7s, and now has since retraced a bit to 8.5. So perhaps, his guy missed his opportunity. It looks like it's to sell these 7 puts for a decent amount, but obviously thinking that is a level that there is some support at. So thinking that Cisco has not too much downside left, and if it does, he doesn't mind picking it up down in that sub $7 range. Again, not a name I watch very actively, but it makes it fun for the odd block to pick up these little names that have some interesting activity. And again, haven't been watching the news out here, so I don't know what it was down. This thing is down about 75%. It hit a 52-week high of nearly $28 back in June, and has since just given up all of that. It actually hit below 7, hit 692 recently. So not exactly a banner name here, and some concerns going on. The CEO resigned recently as well, so that's never a good sign. But this guy obviously thinking that the worst may be behind, I should say.
I wonder
Cisco.
how similar Cisco is to Coco, if that's a counterpart in the online for-profit education industry.
They're all in the same kind of, let's beat these guys with the ugly stick. These companies were flying 2 years ago, and now the government gets in their kitchen about how they generate their revenues. And, I think they're just in Congress's wheelhouse, and until they get out, we're going to see this volatility in the space, because they still generate a lot of cash.
Gotcha.
But they do get
Coco, that used to be a name that was in the high teens or low 20s, and I think they've been trading underneath $5 for the past 6 months.
Yeah,
exactly.
260 right now, yeah.
EDMC, Apollo, DeVry. I mean, there's a whole list of those guys that all seem to kind of trade together. So, could
University of Phoenix Online be next?
Yeah, well, it's another one. That one's down quite a bit. That's Apollo, I think, and it's that name used to be kind of a flyer, and it's really gotten beaten down quite a bit.
Yeah, all I know is they have a sizable. They used to have a sizable marketing budget, at least, because every website you went to on the planet had the University of Phoenix ads on it. So they were generating some cash somewhere.
And it's where they played the Super Bowl last year, I think, in the
they very well might have. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
University of Phoenix Stadium in Scottsdale.
It's the only college that has a stadium but doesn't have a football team.
It's pretty funny.
All right, that is going to do it for the old odd block today, and now we're going to roll right into the Express block.
The Express block, brought to you by Options Express. Options Express lets you trade where and when you want for every level of trading. From advanced charting, free daily trading ideas, and free educational resources, Options Express is the online broker for all traders. Best of all, Options Express allows you to trade stocks, options, and futures all in a single account on powerful yet easy-to-use trading platforms, including mobile devices. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio for your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
All right, and welcome to the Express block. This is, of course, the portion of the show where John Grigas tells us which stocks he's bearish in today. So, Mr. Grigas, aside from your love of Groupon, what else is going on over in the land of OX you want to let our listeners know about?
Yeah, just I want to go through some of the details of the MF Global and kind of what's going on, since every fifth call is a question regarding what's going on with my account over there. So a couple of things that we have been informing mutual clients or clients that hold accounts over at MFG or Lind or through Schwab that does their futures accounts through Lind Walda for MFG. The MFG accounts were the retail accounts were transferred late Friday to it looks like about 8 different broker dealers. RJ O'Brien being one of the largest. That's who we cleared Options Express. So we're hoping that that'll shorten the duration of time it's going to take to get those accounts to Options Express. One of the things that you may have read that the CME and the ICE did was that they lowered the requirements to help out these transfer process. Normally, when you're futures trading, there's an initial requirement to establish the position, and then you have to maintain that maintenance margin in order to hold the position. If you drop below that maintenance, you're issued a margin call, and you have to bring it back up to that initial. Well, what the two exchanges did was that they allowed the positions to be transferred with just 75% of the maintenance margin required to hold those positions. So if you think about it, they let these positions go out, and the broker-dealer that accepted them immediately puts these people on call, right, because they're below maintenance. So a lot of stress for these people that have been put in this position over the last week and a half. A lot of stress for the broker-dealers. We've staffed here over the weekend, this Saturday and Sunday, as well. RJ O'Brien has done the same to kind of field these questions and get answers. A lot of the stuff we don't have answers. The available cash that you may have been, that may have been sitting over at MFG that was not being used to hold futures positions was not transferred out. From our understanding, reading the court documents, the bankruptcy judge has frozen those cash accounts or those cash balances and is not allowing them to be moved until like an independent audit can be conducted, and they can account for two things, like whose money is who and where is it all at. On a daily basis, I hear that the money is missing and that it's not missing. I'm not sure what the latest is and if the money's gone or is found. I think they do have it. They just need to allocate it out to the correct people now. Today was the first day that clients could begin logging back into their Lind or MFG accounts via the Lind Waldock platform. I'm sure there's other platforms that MFG uses, but they were locked out of there. They couldn't see what their positions were, what their cash balances were. Today was the first day they could do it. At Options Express, we've been allowing people to a few accounts to offset their Lind Waldock positions. We will no longer be doing that since they have access back into their accounts. A couple other things here. The MFG transfers that were started last week, we had a lot of people, as I'm sure other firms did, that wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible to not get tied up. They started transfers early last week. Those are pretty much in there. They're pretty much on hold. We're not going to be accepting an account that has a margin call and doesn't know where any of their money's at and may not be getting it for a while. So what seems going to happen is that the FCM or the broker-dealers that they were transferred to, RJ O'Brien, RCG, and others, will have to manage the margin call that they receive, and then once that's taken care of, we'll look to start processing those transfers. But as you can imagine, just from what I read off, a lot of concern for these account holders. As a trader, if you're day trading or even scalping or hedging yourself and trading delta neutral, if you are down for tenths of a second or a few seconds or up to a minute, I mean, it's critical. Could wipe you out. These people have been locked out of their accounts for days. So it's not been a pleasurable experience for anyone. Some of the questions we've been getting from our account holders, what assurances do I have? SIPC accounts are insured, I believe, up to $500,000, $100,000 in cash, but these aren't securities. These are futures. There is no insurance that covers it. One of the benefits of having an account at Options Express is that what we do here is if you have any available cash that you're not using for futures, nightly we sweep it over into a SIPC insured account, so you are covered, which is something that you don't see anywhere else. I'm sure you do at other firms, but we're one of the ones that has that type of feature that kind of gives you a little bit of protection. Other clients are finding out that their money wasn't segregated at MFG. And to that, all I can really say is that, we do segregate funds here. In the 120 plus years that commodities trading has been available in this country, no firm has ever defaulted on a client's funds. And I hope that continues when they sort out this MFG debacle.
Yeah, this is just insanity, and the notion that this is all happening right now. We joked earlier in the show about this whole Occupy Wall Street thing, but the fact that this firm meltdown comes right at the height of these protests and everything else like that, it just feeds that narrative that there is amongst the populace that there is just this den of thieves operating here on the street or at any of these large major brokerage firms or financial firms, and that it's just an us against them type of mentality, and they're just doing things like this. They're just out to steal your money. It's amazing. And yet, so yeah, Corzine and all of his compatriots over there, I guess, well done on just helping to fan the flames of the Occupy Wall Street folks. Now that this was just, I'm sure, this was just fuel on the fire for them over the past week.
Yeah, it doesn't help the industry one bit. I mean, the timing couldn't have been worse. And that we talked about Knight Capital and the put buying in there. I hope this is the only one, but it seems like the market sentiment's kind of bearish on the broker dealers and the trading firms.
It's like celebrity deaths. It always happens in threes. So people are waiting for the other two shoes to drop somewhere and some other firm to disclose some shenanigans perhaps with their customer accounts. So hopefully that's not the case. And man, it was a very limited scenario. But I don't know. Given all the bearish sentiment we're seeing unfolding across the board, it doesn't. Perhaps not. But yeah. So John, anything else going on over at OX you want to let our listeners know about?
No, I mean that's really been taking up all our day over here. We had some interesting stuff with a merger on Harbin Electric, HRBN. So we had a few calls on that today. They were bought out for $24 a share. Gentleman had I think a bear call spread, credit spread, maybe like a 25-30 for December, and he was curious, what's going to happen. I've got to wait to December to clear up that the margin I'm having that you guys are holding on that. This is what happens in a merger is that they set the cash price of $24 or for whatever it's going to be, and then they accelerate it to the next month's expiration. So in this case, anyone holding December or further dated options will have an accelerated expiration, and those will expire the 19th of November, so November expiration. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Grigas, and that is going to do it for the Express Block, and now we're going to roll right into Around the Block.
Around the Block.
And welcome to Around the Block. This is, of course, the portion of the show where we discuss what's coming up on our collective calendars for the next few sessions. It's a relatively light week in terms of good old economic calendar. We have jobless claims coming up on the 10th. And good old Michigan sentiment, which we always joke on this show here, is sold Michigan. But I'm just teasing. We have a lot of listeners out there in Michigan. Don't want to upset them. And, of course, we have some earnings. I know if Uncle Mike was here, I'd tease him that Cisco was coming up in a couple of days. I know he has an open wound with Cisco tattooed on it that he has yet to forgive or forget.
It doesn't go down anymore, though.
Yeah, it doesn't go down. It stopped. The bleeding was done around the 15 handle, and now it's all good. Now that they've sold off Flip. Flip was the problem. It was all Flip dragging down Cisco, and now that they've gotten rid of that vestigial appendage, they can go and make some real money for a change.
They closed the Flip down, right? They didn't even They didn't even try to sell it.
Exactly. They didn't do anything with it. They had this great brand that they had acquired for some reason. Apparently they wanted to get. They saw, hey, Apple's making a great deal of money in this consumer electronics thing. Maybe we should try that too. And they buy this thing that is completely unrelated to their core business, spend a ton of money on it, and then just shut it down. Don't even spin it off or try to use the technology or license it for anything else. I mean, that brand, you could have licensed it to a cell phone manufacturer and say, hey, I have a flip cam in this phone or something like that. You could have done things with it. But just to close it down like that just seems to me to be the height of absurdity. So that's definitely been a black mark on Cisco, at least for me, for a long time. We also have pretty appropriate for me Disney earnings coming out here on the 10th. I just came back from there, and the parks were quite full. So things are looking good, at least from the old Peter Lynch sitting in the parking lot perspective. And GM as well on the 9th. Any other earnings or anything else you guys are watching around the block, Andrew or Auntie Mike?
Not particularly. We were talking about MF Global. I wrote an article for our clients and prospects about 3.5 years ago that hinted at what I thought helped play into the economic collapse of 2008. I resurfaced that article this week, not thinking it would take less than 3 years for another financial institution to fall the same fate as like a Lehman Brothers. But I wrote an article about it this weekend as well. It's on our website at knowyouroptionsinc.com. It's titled "What Have We Learned?" Pretty interesting piece, basically highlighting the long-term capital management trade back in 1998 and how Mr. Corzine was involved in a backroom meeting with the New York Fed bailing out long-term. And I really thought after the fall of Lehman that that culture, that the over-levered, greedy CEO of the investment banking had died, but it looks like it resurfaced its ugly head. And who knows? It might not be fully out of the market as we speak. But if you get a chance, take a look and read the article.
Those guys are never out of the market. They're always lurking just below the surface. Usually some of them have a Goldman pedigree in some way, shape, or form, as Mr. Corzine do and a few others. And I'm starting to sound like one of these on Occupy Wall Street guys, so I'll stop talking. But it is kind of funny that that the narrative they've been spelling out is we're seeing it unfold in a number of different scenarios. And like I said, it doesn't exactly help derivatives as a whole have an image problem. So whenever something like this comes along to just personify the fact that they were used incorrectly and poor customer management and all the other stuff that goes along with it just is a definite unfortunate thing for a lot of people, the customers obviously first and foremost, but everyone who's involved in some way, shape, or form with derivatives. I'm sure it makes your calls to your clients now, Mike, talking about options and derivatives that much more fun, at least for the next few weeks.
Like you said, I mean, we've always had the personification of, wow, that's too risky. And you throw the word derivative out there and people just run away. This forces them to run away even further. I still don't know to this day how an annuity company can say there's a guarantee on anything with an asterisk. And when you read further into the prospectus that options are involved and there really are no guarantees, maybe it's just a marketing thing. Us guys in Chicago are we're too honest. Yeah, options and futures futures contracts involve risk. Here's all the ways you can lose money. Don't do that. Let's focus on the things that we can do to make money, but we'll disclose it, and that scares people away. So I'd rather scare somebody out that doesn't belong in the market than invite them in with guarantees.
Well said, sir. And that's going to do it, I think, with those sage words of wisdom. We'll close out.
There you go. And I will get off of my soapbox.
With those sage words, we will close out the Around the Block segment. And that's also going to do it for this episode of the Option Block. I want to thank all of my motley crew of contributors for coming on the show today, and starting off with Mr. Grigas from Options Express. What is coming up in the land of OX you'd like to let our listeners know about?
Well, little birdie told me there's a big party going on in Las Vegas. I believe it's the end of this month. Mark, you might be aware of what it actually is called, but we're doing a site night out there, which I usually try to throw my hat in the ring when it comes to South Beach, Miami, Las Vegas, LA, but for some reason they're not taking me out there. So we're gonna have a live event out in Las Vegas. For some reason I don't have it on the website right now, but I'll get that corrected. And also those MFG accounts will be coming over sometime in December. So if you're one of those unlucky people, just sit tight. We're working as hard as we can to get those moved.
I'm looking here. I don't see it either. Yeah,
it's not on there, but they must have emailed me directly. That's why I can get it for Thursday's show.
Is this
all the days?
Is this part of the Vegas Expo, or is this just something you guys are doing yourself?
I think it's something we're doing ourselves. Is there an expo this?
Yeah, because
end of this
the 18th
month?
is
that's Joe. It's the same week.
Yeah, so Joe's out there for the 18th, and Joe and Jim are doing the Traders Expo. So maybe must be part of that then. I would think. Well,
yeah, I think so.
Thank you for that.
Lucky me. I'm going to be in Vegas that weekend.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, you guys, I should have went. Oh.
You'll be playing bear pong on the strip with all the rest of them there, Mr. Auntie Mike.
O'Shea's. We'll be at O'Shea's.
Such a classy place, Vegas. All right, thank you for that, sir. And now, Mr. Auntie/Monday Mike, what is coming up, aside from that article, over at KYO you'd like to let our listeners know about?
Well, the Know Your Options Lunch and Learn program has been accepted very well. So if you're in the Chicago area, you'd like to come into the office, sit down with us. We'll put a presentation together, potentially get a tour of one of the exchanges put together for you. If you got 3 hours to kill, we'd love to sit down and talk options with you. So our website, www.knowyouroptionsinc.com. Click on the stopwatch. One of us will give you a call, and if you're interested in a lunch and learn session, let us know.
I was over there recently. I can't speak for the learning, but the lunch was fantastic. I thought the Gibson steak was just the right degree of well done, and those truffled potatoes, they were just to die for, sir. So I can definitely recommend the lunch.
Very good.
Wow.
You guys serve.
I want to go there for
exactly.
lunch.
You forgot the lobster macaroni.
The lobster. You're right. And the bisque. Can't forget the bisque. I was amazed when Tusaw came out there in that waiter's outfit and was ladling out the bisque in those bowls. It was a sight to behold, definitely. Lunch at the KYO offices. Everyone, I recommend it heartily. If you're in the Chicago area, swing by and see what those guys have cooking. Quite literally over at KYO. All right, and Andrew, we talked about it at the top of the show, but you are now official over in the land of Option Pit. You are indeed the adult supervision. So tell our listeners what you're going to be doing over there in Option Pit land.
Sure. Well, I have the fantastic title of Chief Strategy Officer at Option Pit. My goal, first off, is helping Mark with curriculum for new students. We'll also be launching a weekly newsletter, kind of a follow the trade newsletter for more complex strategies, deeper back spreading, front spreading, more professional type positions, like running an option book. Thirdly, I'll be writing for thestreet.com again. I did that for a while. I was an original contributor for them, so I will be adding that. And helping Mark with the Pit Report and all of the activities that goes into making Option Pit the great mentoring site that it is.
And are you still hanging your hat in Portland, or are you moving and making a fine, sunny, tropical Chicago your home?
Right now, still in Maine, still in the Portland area, but I am in Chicago more often now. So we'll see how all that stuff goes. But most of the things that I do for Mark are, through webinar and things like that. So, you don't have to be in Chicago anymore to trade, essentially. So that's that's the good part, and the downside. I do miss Chicago. It's a good time.
The great Chicago diaspora has begun.
Yes.
You can do it from Portland now, so you can do it. You can trade from anywhere. If you can do it in Portland, Maine, then you can do it from anywhere.
Exactly.
All right.
Maine, a good state. It's like a third world country with nice roads. Just think of it that way.
There we go. We've offended Michigan and now Maine, so two of the M states are off our list. And that is going to do it for this episode of The Option Block. I want to thank all of our listeners out there for downloading and streaming and subscribing to this program and making it such a success. And we'll see you next time right here on The Option Block.
Become a part of The Option Block. Just visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/forum to post a question for the hosts. You can also submit questions to twitter.com/optionblock or leave a voicemail at 312-544-9356. Make it interesting, and your question just might make it on the air. The Options Block is property of the Options Insider Incorporated. All rights reserved. The preceding program was a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/radio or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.